Dark times are looming over the Brazilian national football team. The team, which is about to match its longest drought without winning a World Cup, is going through one of its most turbulent periods in history. Displaying poor football, both individually and collectively, Brazil exits the 2024 Copa America with a humiliating performance after losing to Uruguay in a penalty shootout. What went wrong? What caused this disaster? Find out now with us, Brazilian talent, the best of the best football in the world. Hello, dear fans of Brazilian football. It's a tough time for us, lovers of the world's best football. After another disgraceful performance, the Brazilian national team leaves the Copa America with a terrible impression. But who is to blame? Dorival Jr., the coach, Vinicius Jr., the world's best player, the players in general, CBF. Join us as we analyze the 5 main reasons why the Brazilian national team failed. If I were you, I wouldn't miss reason number 2, which was undoubtedly the most concerning point in the competition and a major worry for the future. Dorival Jr. The Brazilian coach might be the main face of the national team's failure. But why? Dorival has several questionable points. The first was his insistence on the midfield. Bruno Guimarães, João Gomes and Lucas Paquetá were chosen to start. This midfield didn't work at any point during the competition and was often overrun both defensively and offensively. Dorival didn't even test another option. The second point, Savinho. The Brazilian national team had a good performance during short periods of the second game against Paraguay, the only game where Savinho started. Savinho had standout moments, was incisive, but Dorival continued not to give him many minutes. This is also the problem with another player pushing for a chance, Endrick. The young prodigy was in top form before the competition. What did Dorival do? He used him as a starter only in the last game, in the absence of Vinicius Jr., playing with an improvised centre-forward in the other 3 games. Finally, his in-game management was another problem. Dorival always waited at least 25 minutes into the second half to make substitutions, even with poor performances from the starters. In matches where Brazil needed to attack desperately, Dorival didn't take risks and stuck to bureaucratic football, as seen in the match against Uruguay, even with one more player. Dorival Jr. is the face of this failure, and he earned this title. Shooting posture and finishing efficiency. The Brazilian national team had a very low volume of offensive production. This is evident in the shot statistics. Only one player averaged more than 1 shot per game, Rafinha. This is even more concerning when you consider that Brazil had an average of over 60% possession, highlighting the team's lack of effectiveness in threatening the opponent's goal. The overall shooting stats for the team back this up. With averages of 12.5 shots per game and 3.8 shots on target per game, the team ranked 8th in both offensive finishing parameters, far below what they could and should have achieved. Moreover, these numbers were slightly inflated during the 15 minutes when the team scored 3 goals against Paraguay. A detailed analysis indicates a worse overall performance. In fact, the team scored only 1 goal in the 3 games, excluding the match against Paraguay. Considering that this goal was a free kick by Rafinha, it paints an even grimmer picture. The team's shooting posture and production were major issues. So far, what do you think of the reasons? Stay with us, because the second reason will make you understand what really went wrong for the Brazilian national team. The Brazilian team lacks a leader. Another crucial point is the absence of leaders in the Brazilian national team. At the start of the competition, all eyes were on Vinicius Jr. and how he would take on the leadership role. This didn't happen. Vinny had one good game against Paraguay, and that was it. For someone who is the leading candidate for the Ballon d'Or, according to bookmakers, Vinicius had a disappointing tournament. We will explore this further in a dedicated section on him as the standout name of this team. The fact is that Vinicius couldn't replicate his club's success with Real Madrid during the tournament. Meanwhile, another Real Madrid star, Rodrigo, also failed to step up as a leader. His performance was even more lackluster. No goals, no assists, just one big chance created. Poor stats for a standout player from the world's top club and the heir to Brazil's iconic number 10 jersey. Finally, Endrick also fell short of expectations. The young talent is seen as the next big thing in Brazilian football, but he couldn't deliver on the field. Of course, Dorival Jr.'s decisions impacted his performance, limiting the minutes of those who were eager to shine. But when Endrick had his chance in the last game, he barely made an impact. It is clear that putting so much pressure on Endrick is premature. The player is only 18 years old and has a bright future ahead. But as everything in his life has happened early, so did the expectations of leadership. The fact remains that the Brazilian national team still depends on Neymar. The time has come. The main problem for Brazil was creating chances. Tying in with the poor finishing efficiency, we see a terrible volume of chances created by the Brazilian national team throughout the competition. First and foremost, creating opportunities depends on the entire team, but is primarily centered on the midfield, which was Brazil's biggest problem. The midfield simply didn't work. The statistics bear this out. The only player with more than 0.5 key passes per game was Rodrigo, with 2 key passes in the entire tournament. Not only is this a low number, but Rodrigo was supposed to be on the receiving end of these passes as the team's most advanced player. Brazil didn't have a single player among the top 10 for key passes in the tournament. Brazil created only 7 big chances in 4 games. This is already a low number for a team with such high possession. What's even more concerning is that 5 of these 7 chances came against Paraguay. In the other 3 games, there were just 2 big chances created, terrible numbers. On the wings, using our wingers and crossing balls into the box, we were also poor. We averaged 2.5 accurate crosses per game, ranking 4th worst in this category. Our chance creation was lackluster in every aspect. Vinicius Jr., the brightest star of the Brazilian generation, failed in the competition. Vinny is currently the best Brazilian player. He had a season that positioned him as a contender for the best player in the world and arrived at the Copa America, ready to take on the technical leadership of the Brazilian team. It didn't happen. Vinicius's performance was well below par. He had a successful dribble rate of 32%, far below the 50% average of the other top dribblers in the tournament. He was among the top 10 players who lost possession the most, with 16.3 possession losses per game. Most worryingly, he showed a lack of composure at several points during the tournament. This resulted in 2 entirely unnecessary bookings, ruling him out of the decisive match against Uruguay. His performance was so underwhelming that depending on the outcome of the Euro Cup, Vinny's candidacy for the best player in the world could be in jeopardy. These were our analysis points on the Brazilian debacle. What do you think was missing for a better performance? What do you think needs to be done for Brazil to get back on track and perform well at the 2026 World Cup? Did you like the video? Leave your like, comment, share. Brazilian talent, the best of the best football in the world.